Starting new clubs from A to Z. For as long as I've been in Toastmasters, I have heard how important it is to start new clubs. But frankly, I didn't have a clue as to how to go about it. And I didn't have a clue really as to why it was so important. Tonight, we're going to talk about that. Starting new clubs is work. I'm not going to deny that. It takes effort and energy to start a new club. So what's in it for you? Club growth, which means adding new clubs to the district. It doesn't mean growing your own club. Club growth translates into a stronger district. A stronger district translates into more learning opportunities for you and me. The more Toastmasters you have in your district, the more that you can learn from each other. What else is in it for you? Oh, you recognize this list. This is a list of things that come up whenever we talk about why did you join Toastmasters? To improve my communication skills, to improve my leadership skills, to increase my networking circle, to improve my organizational skills. The thing is, when you get involved in starting a new club, you improve these skills exponentially. Exponentially in a better way and exponentially in a faster way, because you have this concentrated effort in networking with people to bring them together to start a new club. Your salesmanship increases because you're wanting to start that new club. Your leadership in organizing meetings, that goes back down to the bottom too, organizational skills, organizing meetings, bringing people together, listening to what the needs are of those that are thinking about starting a new club. Why do they think they might want to start a new club? What are their challenges? How can Toastmasters help them meet those challenges? It's really important that everyone think about not only why you join Toastmasters, but what you can get out of joining Toastmasters. There is so much more than just being a member of your local club. And stepping outside your club to start a new club is one of those avenues. I'd like to turn it over to Ed Cullen, our District Growth Director, to share a few ideas with you about incentives and more.
Thank you very much, Sally. We're all volunteers here, and Sally said you're going to have to put some effort into starting new clubs. George Marshall just gave me a wonderful reason to start new clubs. He ran the numbers because he's a fabulous numbers guy, and we are critically dependent on new clubs. If there were no new clubs, there would be significant membership loss, and worldwide every year. And probably in 10 to 15 years, Toastmasters would be gone. And we can't have that because it's done so much for us in terms of communication, as Sally said, in terms of leadership. Probably started for communication. You probably stuck around because of leadership. And at the drop of a hat, I quote Dr. Ralph Smedley, let us share with others the benefits we've gained for ourselves. So starting new clubs, very rewarding, but we're all volunteers. And I have a slide here that says thanking our volunteers. Well, we have an incentive plan. And why does District 57 have an incentive plan? We have incentives to drive people to do the actions that benefit themselves. If you charter a club between October 1st, 2021 and May the 31st, 2022. And those people who were at the district executive committee meeting last Friday or Saturday know that I'd like to start 30 clubs by March 30th. If you charter a club, your division director, whether they were involved or not, gets an incentive of $75 in Toastmasters gift certificates. The club sponsor, or the equivalent spark plug, will also get $75 in Toastmasters International gift certificates. And an area director, if they're involved, will get $75 in Toastmasters International gift certificates. If they were involved in working the lead, that's 3 people, $75. We're talking 2 1/4 here. Why is it important to us? Those of you who have heard me before know that I talk about club open houses a lot. That's building and attracting new members to your existing clubs. But starting new clubs brings people who are not currently in the Toastmasters orbit into the Toastmasters orbit, and it increases our reach. Why are we doing incentives? Why don't we just pay you from a large wad of cash? Well, we can't do that because of IRS rules. Maybe a little later you'll hear about District Bucks, a fabulous way to comply with IRS rules. We can give you Toastmasters International gift certificates. And what could you possibly do with that? Well, if you got $75, you could get a vintage hoodie for yourself, something that says Toastmasters on it, and you could get a promotional bookmark, you know, the ones that say 10 tips for public speaking, very nice item. You could get one of those for every one of your charter members. Or you could get a Toastmasters polo shirt for yourself, and you could get a core value coin for every one of your charter members. You know what they're like. They're very nice. They remind us that our core values are integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And I described a situation where 3 people received incentives for one club. You could actually have 4 people working on that club and 4 incentives. Now we're talking some real money. You could pool it and do something significant for the club and still have hoodies for yourself, polos for yourself, maybe a Toastmaster tie. But the real reward is seeing a new club fruit and grow and last. I have been a sponsor of a couple of clubs, and they're both in existence. It is very rewarding to see a club prosper. I like to see those clubs on the DCP. I like to see them as presidents distinguished. And how do they get there? Well, there are some rewards less tangible than a hoodie or a polo shirt, but less tangible rewards. If you are a sponsor, that takes care of a part of becoming a distinguished Toastmaster. You sponsor or the lead in speechcraft or the lead in youth leadership. That's one category. Another category is being a club mentor. That's 6 months of showing this new club what club quality looks like. Why do every Toastmasters club is a little different in culture, but why do they all have a prepared speech and then extemporaneous speaking, which we call table topics, so tricky for new people to know, and evaluations? We have that because for nearly 100 years, it's been demonstrated that that works. And a club mentor, and there could be two of them, can satisfy another part of becoming a distinguished Toastmaster. And being, I can say from my own experience, being a club mentor is very rewarding. You get to interact with people you wouldn't ordinarily see, and you get to spread the message of club quality to them. But there are some other things that you can get from being involved with new clubs. Sally shows you can get some high performance leadership project ideas out of it. You can become an outstanding achievement Toastmaster. The list goes on, but the intangible portions, the good feelings you get from doing the things which I'm sure Bett will tell you about, are really the reward. It's going back to those core values. It's integrity, respect, service, and excellence, and getting a new club off on the right foot. Starting on time, ending on time, having an agenda, all the things you like about your club or you wish would change with your club. You can get these new Toastmasters off on the right foot. Very rewarding. Back to you, Sally.
Thank you so much, Ed. It is certainly true that starting a new club not only builds your personal skills, it builds your self-confidence, but it also brings Toastmasters to so many more people. Next, I would like to, let's see here. Just a minute. There we go. I'd like to call on Bett Bollhoefer, who is our immediate past district director, and have her talk to us about the nits and grits of starting new clubs. Bett.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sally. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here on a Friday night. Party. Thank you, guys. So let's go to the next slide. I'm going to talk about the nitty-gritty of how to identify new club leads and how to follow up on those. So let's dive in. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Sally. So what is a lead? This is a sales term, and not everyone is a linguist in the sales lingo, but that's okay. So a lead is a group that would benefit from the club in our case. And I'm going to talk more about what that means specifically, but it's really an idea at the beginning. It's just an idea. So let's go to the next slide. The thing that's really important is a qualified lead. As a club growth director, we got a lot of training about go for the no, always be closing, right? That's one thing that they said in sales. But another thing is always be trying to find out if it's a really qualified lead. So a qualified lead means one that's been validated. And I have a whole bunch of really good questions that you can ask when you find a lead to find out if it's a valid lead. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about it. What makes it? So first of all, we're all Toastmasters here. We know what it's like to be a part of a club that doesn't have 20 members. At least some of us know. Those of you who are really lucky have never had that experience. When you have a smaller club, it's really challenging to fill roles. And sometimes people have to do double duty. Everyone has to show up every single meeting. Otherwise, it feels very stressful. So you want to make sure the group that you're trying to start a club for already has enough people to make the minimum membership. Wow, that's a minimum number of membership easy. So this is going to be a little bit different during the pandemic. I'll tell you what it used to be. We used to look for companies that had, let's say, 2,000 employees inside of one building. That would be a really healthy size organization that could have a club. But with things being on Zoom, if a company has little small satellite offices all around, it still can feed the club. So if you want to make it a virtual club forever, always on Zoom, then it doesn't have to really be limited to a physical size. All right, so the group has to have enough people. So if you think about a community group like a church, again, a nice number is 500-600 people. If you have a church that has 20 people in it, it's not likely every single person's going to sign up to be part of this club. So you just have to try to make it easy on yourself to have a valid lead that is going to be able to support this club and have a thriving environment where everyone's learning and doing the club mission. So that's really important. The next thing is you want to have people, if it's community group, you need to have people who are passionate about starting a club. If you come to a group and they really don't care anything about Toastmasters, and you try to convince them and they really don't need it and they don't want it, you're going to have a really difficult time starting that club. So don't waste your time. Always go for the no. If they don't care, if it doesn't align with their mission, then just don't waste your time. Your time is valuable. Let's talk about corporate clubs. Corporate clubs need an internal champion. Now, this can be HR. It can be a leader, an executive of some sort. I really highly recommend it's someone who's a little bit higher on the corporate ladder, because they're going to need to pull their strings to get people to your meeting. And you really want to leverage that internal champion. And they have to really feel passionate that this club is going to meet their goals. So the fourth one, I've been saying it over and over, the group goals have to align with the goals of the Toastmasters Club. So let's talk more about what that looks like. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what are 3 places where you could find a lead? First of all, your own company. That's like the most easy place. If your company doesn't have a Toastmasters Club right now, why not? Hello, everyone needs it. Now, I think of this as really as important, especially because of the pandemic. We all are, a lot of people are working remote, and having a club in your company is a really great way to socialize, get to know your colleagues outside, network, and of course, leadership development and communication skills. So the second one is professional organizations. I was just on my LinkedIn checking how many different groups I'm part of. I think it's like 100 groups. So take a look through your LinkedIn, see the different professional organizations that you're already part of, and think, maybe you guys have a newsletter or you have some kind of meeting, but could the Toastmasters Club align with the goals of the professional organization? And then the third is your own community groups. I know various people here are involved in all kinds of other societies and associations that are not professional, but they're things that are really meaningful and wonderful for their life. So those groups can also really benefit from a Toastmasters Club. I know for churches, a lot of times they're continually looking for new Sunday school teachers and trying to build the confidence in their leadership. So a Toastmasters Club is a really good fit a lot of times for a church, but other community groups also could really use that. All right, next slide. All right, so I mentioned my LinkedIn, also Meetup. If you're part of various meetups, let's take 2 minutes, and I have my timer here. Let's take 2 minutes to just write down some things. I think we're going to do a group or division level brainstorm later. So let's just take 2 minutes, and each of you write it down on paper, write it down in a notepad, and wherever it is that you like writing notes, put it on your iPhone, and write down some of the groups that you're already part of. does your company need a club? I'm going to start my timer right now. All right, one more minute. Think about other professional organizations. I was even thinking about my family. I have there's 9 of us, and all of us are now married. And a lot of my family has cousins or, neighbors. You could even start a family Toastmasters anyways. This is like, you got to get creative here. So during your brainstorm, 35 seconds left. And I'll address a question that Coach Esther put in the chat. I hear some people just writing furiously over there. Very, very encouraging. All right, 10 seconds, 4 seconds, 3. All right, I'm just gonna stop it before it makes a really loud noise. Okay, let's just address this really quick question Coach Esther put in the chat. Will you be discussing starting a specialty club or advanced club? So what that means is, so an advanced club is actually a club where the members are already Toastmaster members. I know a lot of people love this. My personal view is that you already are, it's already hard to find Toastmaster members. And then if you make the requirement they're already a member of another club, I think it's a challenge. I know Greg has a past district director club, right? I just I'm shocked about the kind of creativity there is in advanced clubs. I used to be a part of a leadership club that was, I think, only for presidents. It becomes challenging in keeping membership. I'm just going to put it out there. So maybe some people here will argue with me, but I do think it's a challenge. So specialty clubs are clubs that are around a specific hobby or community or community association. And I think those are really good. I really like those. And if you find people who are very passionate about their topic, then they'll want to make speeches. And so that will bring a lot of energy and fuel to the club. And it's really easy on Zoom. All right, so let's keep going. Thank you guys for doing that brainstorming. I heard a lot of writing during that. So next slide, Sally. All right, so let's say that you have found this club that we just brainstormed and you want to move forward on it. So how do you exactly validate that it's the right thing? So if it's already an organized group, not, pet lovers, .com or something that you're creating yourself. Let's say it's already a group out there. You would want to find somebody who you think would become a champion. And you may do hit and miss, right? So this may be a repeat process. So you find the person and you can use LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a really good way to find a contact person, and you can reach out to them. You can ask them for like a coffee chat, which is kind of a very informal thing that you can do. You can just do it on the phone. You can do it on a Zoom. Most likely people are not going to be willing to meet with other people during a pandemic. I don't know. So during that meeting, you want to you want to be prepared. So make sure that, like, if you have your cousin that works at this company and you think that company needs, ask your cousin to give you information. right? Like get some information from someone who knows. So do some investigation work, then go to their website and read what's going on. And this can be a really good place to find out if they're going through leadership change, or if they're switching product lines, or if they're trying to up their sales numbers, right? They have a new product launch. You can really learn a lot of things, and you can reference that, like, oh, I saw you're launching a new product line. That probably means you're hiring a lot of people and you need them to network and have communication skills and run great meetings, right? So any kind of little bits of information that you can get to bring to that chat is going to help them realize, like, oh, this person's valuing my time and taking time to investigate and learn. Also, searching for news to find out if there's anything big going on at that company or organization. Let's go to the next slide, Sally. Okay, these are the questions. Once you're in the coffee chat with this person, you remember you're going for the no. You're not trying to sell them on something. You're not trying to twist their arms and get them to say yes. You want them to say, no, this is not the right thing for me. And that way you can move on to the next lead. So you want to ask, what are the high-level goals of the organization? If the goals of the organization do not align with Toastmasters, we played this really fun game at ADECM a few years ago now, where people had to do these quizzes and interviews with people in a room. This was like a few years ago. And it was a lot of fun. So I had created these different companies, and then each group was interviewing the CEO of the company to find out if they should have this or not. And there was one company whose mission was basically to hire people, and then as soon as they get burned out, just lay them off, fire them. There was no investment in the person. So that's an example of a company that doesn't align with Toastmasters. Toastmasters is about growing the people and helping them become better communicators and better leaders. So you really want to make sure the company actually cares about their employees or the group, and that this is going to benefit them. Okay, so just right away, if they're telling you we don't really care about people, we don't invest in them, we don't want to help them, that's a big red flag not to waste your time. Next, how big is the organization? And that's going to, of course, be really important. If they're a 10-person organization and they don't have any connections with anyone else, that's just not a big enough pool to bring your 20 members. And people are going to roll over. So you need to have a very nice big group of people in this organization. I would say 500. There's probably different opinions on this call, but I'm going to continue. Okay, what are the communication issues the organization is struggling with? So this is kind of a leading question, but I think it's going to be very revealing to what's going on in the organization. And it could be all kinds of interesting things you're going to find out if they feel comfortable sharing. The next thing is leadership training. What leadership training does your organization already provide? So with this, you're looking for them to say something like, we have something, but it's very expensive. We're trying to find something a little bit better, or we don't have any training yet. We're still looking. They say, we have all our leadership training done. That might be a red flag that it might not be the right lead. So just be aware of that. Another one here, I started running out of room, but another really thing that's very important nowadays is coaching and mentoring. A lot of employees, in fact, I think almost all employees nowadays want to get mentored and coached. And that's something that we are so good at teaching. Also giving feedback. So I would say, does your leadership training teach people how to mentor and coach? Does it teach people how to give feedback to peers and to employees and supervisors, right? In every direction. So I think those are a few more little questions that I just couldn't fit onto the slide, but those are like bonus ones. Okay, next, I think this is so important during a pandemic, networking and socialization. Toastmasters is the highlight of my week. So being able to go and see smiling faces where we're not trying to figure out the deadline on some project task, it's really important for companies. And I think finding out if they already have some kind of social program, and it can't just be that, but I'm saying it's another benefit that if they need that, you should definitely find out. All right, let's move to the next slide. Does the company have an employee and development program? That's a really great phrase, George. Thank you for calling that out. All right, so if it's qualified, so yeah, let's jump into, so if they said yes to all the, the questions and you feel like it's a really good place for you to spend time, then you need to make sure they're on board, right? So if it's a Dog Walkers of America Professional Association or Bank of America, whatever group it is, you have to make sure the following things. So your organization interested in a communication leadership program, like it's kind of closing the sale, right? But you need to make sure that it might not be the right time. They may be going through some other organization change. It might be laying off people. Who knows what's going on? You should ask them if this is the right time for that. Next, ask this very important question, and it may feel very uncomfortable for you, but you need to ask them, would you be the person to champion getting 30 people to a kickoff meeting? And then stop and just pregnant pause. Now, if they're like, no, I love this. I think it's so good, but I'm not going to do it. I'm too busy, right? You need to tell them, like, I need to have a champion. Do not walk away without a name. They may love the idea, but unless there's a name of a person who's going to champion it, it's just not going to happen. So having a champion inside is absolutely critical. That number there, 30, that's not an accident. 30 people, if you get 30 people at a kickoff meeting, you will charter that club. Okay? Sally's going to have a whole thing in a few minutes about how to do kickoff meetings and how to schedule them. She's going to do such a great job. Those people are going to sign up. Okay? So you really need to get 30 people there, because if you have 7 people there, it's just the energy is not going to be in the room. You really want to have 30. All right, so you need to find a name who can help you get 30 people to the kickoff meeting, and then pick a date. If you could pick a date, get a range of dates, and then you can bring that to Sally in the next part. And who else can be involved? Try to get HR, try to get other parts of the organization involved. The more people who are excited and passionate and champions, the more likely you're going to succeed. Let's go to the next slide. All right, Sally, I have really brought this like right to the exact transition point. So thank you all. I'm going to hand it over to Sally for actually scheduling and kicking off that meeting.
All right. Thank you so much, Bett. Oh my gosh, that was just a wealth of information about how to find leads and how to get into the business of actually getting that club started. My role in this process is to organize and present a kickoff meeting. And to that end, I will provide the Toastmaster, the keynote speaker, and the table topics master, timer, not everything a normal Toastmasters meeting would have, but enough so that we can showcase what a Toastmasters meeting looks like. We design those meetings to be comfortable for the people coming. So for instance, table topics, ooh, scary. We pick topics that those folks already know about. Either we find out about them, we have them make the suggestion, or we ask questions that are directly linked to what they already know about. And that's what we do with the kickoff meeting. What else do we do? Well, Ed comes to these kickoff meetings, and Ed brings the paperwork, and he knows what paperwork is needed. There's an application for the new member. There's an application for the new club. There are checks that need to be written. There are explanations that need to be given in terms of the timing of how that goes. Ed has all of those answers in his hip pocket. So you don't need to worry about those details in terms of the implementation. We have some wonderful informational documents that outline all of those things, so that as you're talking to people about the possibility of starting a new club, you'll have those answers at your fingertips. And if you need to call one of us into a meeting that you're having with that organization or with a group of people, we're there. We'll schedule it so that we can be there at a time that's convenient for everybody. So that's what we do. We're there to provide the structure and the safety net for you as you go out to talk to people about starting new clubs. Ed, do you have anything you want to add on that particular aspect of starting new clubs?
Yes, if we get Bett's 30 people in that room, we will be talking about when they want to meet and what they want to call their club and who they want their 7 officers to be. That's their decision. I can make that paperwork work for them. So you don't have to worry about the paperwork, but getting those 30 people there and getting the process to go forward, an introduction, a truncated meeting, and then the administrivia, the kinds of things. What do we want to call this club? They'll vote on that. Who do we want to have as president and VPE and VPM, et cetera? That's their part. I will make that happen so that we charter that club and throw the incentives around. Back to you, Sally.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you for that. Oh, questions. Are there any questions at this point in the presentation this evening? And let's see, I have just a partial screen showing. So how should I stop my share in order to see who's got questions?
Greg has a question.
Okay, Greg.
Thank you. Yes, one of the things that I'm sure that people, when we come in there, not everybody attends that meeting knows us. And we start collecting checks and putting them in there. Well, what is the district's guidance? I know what I did, but what's the district's guidance about sharing with them how the money is going to be handled in the checking account and a particular bank account? So when everything's collected, we can pay the complete membership fees and the club costs. What for our members, what's the best advice to answer questions about that from potential members of a new club?
Ed, can you take that one?
Well, first, I learned from Bett Bollhoefer that you go toward the conflict, not away from the conflict. So you talk about what it costs. What's the charter fee? A charter fee was waived last year and the new member fee was waived last year. We are not in that world. So we divide the charter fee by the 20 people, or if we've got 30 people, by the 30 people. And then we add it up and say it's approximately $75 a person. It's not small, but it's something you might be able to find in your couch cushions. So you talk about it up front. You don't run away from the fact that this is not free. And there are times when if it's a corporate club, the corporation will pay something and they will have to pay something else, probably their dues. The corporation might pay the charter fee. So it makes it much easier. You work through that before the meeting with the champion, if that's a case. A corporate club, Bett talked about getting to know. A corporate club gives you a yes, no much more quickly than a community club. You may have to do a kickoff meeting and then a follow-up and then a follow-up before you charter a community club. But a corporate club will either say, I'm marrying you, or I don't want to date you anymore. I mean, gone.
So do community clubs, do the officers collect the checks and then immediately go to the bank to set up a bank account, or that's something that I haven't ever quite understood.
Yes, there are difficulties with virtual only clubs and bank accounts because again, this is our friend, the IRS. The IRS likes a registered office. So one of the ways that a virtual club has gotten around their inability to create a bank account, and a bank account is a very nice thing to have, is someone has said, this is the physical location. And oftentimes it's a first treasurer's location. If they're in Hayward, it turns out they say we're located in Hayward. The banks don't really like to set up an account for someone who has no location. But that may be more details than you want. Once an account is set up, then you have the ability to both take and give money, to spend and deposit. Oftentimes you run those first charter payments directly to the new clubs desk at Toastmasters International. You put it on a spreadsheet, you send it to them, you call them to say, where are we in the process? And voila, we're good. Yes, Bett?
Hey, I have a lot to say about this. Thank you for acknowledging me. Okay, so there's something really important with corporate clubs. It's called skin in the game. And if you don't make the members of the club at least pay up front and maybe get tuition reimbursement, that's a possibility, they will not treat the club like we do as people who really are passionate about Toastmasters enough to be on a call at Friday at 6:19. So you want people who care and are investing in this a lot. And I've met people who knew they had a corporate club. They treated it like entertainment. They would go, sit and watch, enjoy, and then leave. So that's not going to be a thriving club. So I think it's really important when it comes to payments for corporate clubs and to make sure that the members are paying part of the dues or they get reimbursed after they've finished the quarter or however long the half of the year. So that's something that I found personally. I know other people have their hands up, but I just want to throw that in.
Okay, thank you very much. Esther, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Is there something like a booklet or a packet or a step-by-step guide that actually says these are the costs and this is the first thing that you do, very much the way Toastmasters does speeches. You go and it's got everything there so that we can go after this meeting is over. Because one of the things that's kind of fuzzy to me is that we're talking about like charter, like how much it costs. And so I'm less concerned about going and talking to people and trying to get the people signed up. I'm more interested in just the step-by-step process so that I can know whether this is something that I can really commit myself to, because I want to know exactly what are all the steps, what are all the costs, all what are all the rules and regulations and that type of thing.
Yeah, Esther, yeah, we do have a document that outlines that.
Okay.
And
George has put it in the chat, but here is one on paper. There are still people who like paper, but George has put the link in the chat. You may want to save the chat for that link and other things.
Good idea. All right, are there any other hands up? I'm not seeing. Oh, I'm sorry. I just squirreled my thing and it went crazy.
Sally, can you unshare so we can see faces of everyone who's talking?
Yeah, I was just about to do that because we're almost to this portion. Now let me stop my share. There we go.
Greg
All
has
right.
his hand up.
Yeah, I don't want to
John
belabor
the
this. You have to move on, but
John the Mara. Nande Marara Bioka number one.
somebody's talking there.
Number two, Fabia Goddard.
Could somebody unmute? Okay. So in the past, in the old days, when I chartered a lot of clubs in Southern California, we could use the club bank account to do that. I understand that as against policy now, you cannot use your club bank account at this time. So I guess the question again is, like when I chartered the contagious communicators up here at Sutter Lakeside in Lake County, I got the administrative people to put it in their finance department. They collected the checks. Actually, they paid everything. And so it worked good. And the only thing that was a challenge was every year going through their system to get the renewal of the payments. So if we can't put it in a checking account for a club, and you don't have a corporate club that's handling that for you, I guess, can you have your, can you develop a checking account with a name of a location that you can collect these checks, and hopefully people will trust you to take that? I don't know. It's been a while since I started a club, and that's one of the questions I have, because I'm trying to look at starting a realtors club up here of real estate agents. But I don't know how. The question they have is, well, who's going to hold on to the money already? See, they don't know me from Adam. They don't have a trust or credibility. All they know is I'm some guy talking about trying to start Toastmasters. So in order to go forward, can I take out my own checking account and do that to trust them, or find one of them to do it? What's your advice and leads on doing that?
George or Ed, or I don't know the answer to
Sure.
that question.
Let me, a couple of thoughts there. Thank you, Greg, for your your contributions. Once it is a club, Toastmasters has a rule about not intermingling club funds with personal funds. Until it is a club, anything the people that want to start the club want to do, they can. They can all write checks and give them to one person. They can write checks and not give them to anyone until it's time to actually do it. They can set up a PayPal. I mean, there's a lot of things they can do. So until you are an official club, it's whatever works for the folks that want to start one is acceptable.
Okay, great. All right.
Well,
don't-
I know our club is 100% virtual, as most are, and we are collecting by PayPal to the treasurer.
But
So-
you have a club banking account, right?
Yes, we do have a club banking account.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I don't see any other hands raised for questions. So I would like to go to the next section of this workshop, which is to divide us all up into about 4 breakout rooms where we can brainstorm with each other about where we're going to look for leads or identifying leads and how we're going to go about doing that. We're going to be in those breakout rooms for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back. So pick a reporter, because when we come back, I want each breakout room to report back to the larger group about what you thought about, what you talked about, what some of your ideas were for how to identify and start the process for following up on those leads. So Wing, I'm not going to try to do it by division because I'm not sure who's where. So could you maybe just randomly pick four people per, let's see, we have 15 people. So maybe 4 and 1 3-person room.
Let me see what I can do. 4 rooms, and I'll see if I can just
Or maybe 3 rooms, maybe just 3 rooms. Yeah, if you could do that to move the people over, because I want to have an opportunity for everybody to talk about, what some of your ideas are.
Just make sure you have reservations for that room.
For a while.
Okay.
for a while, I got some mileage out of volunteering to work in the public affairs department, which was like 2 people. And they just would love to pick up a few speakers. Has anybody else ever worked with a small public affairs office?
Okay, well, that's someplace that,
Well, then don't tell anybody about it. I'll talk with our club about it.
yeah,
Well, of course, the other thing you think about it, and you see a lot of districts have a speakers bureau club where people provide different topics that you talk about. And if you know organizations, that other organizations want to hear that specific topic, that club not only listens to your speeches and evaluates it how to do better, but when it's called upon, you can go outside the club and present a topic up there. And it also gives you a chance, since you have the floor, to advertise Toastmasters of what I learned from Toastmasters by being here today to present to you. It's just a
Right.
thought.
right, that is a good thought. Room 2, who's the speaker for the presenter for room 2 reporter?
Ed, do you want to go?
Sure. Janet Voss went to the races. She started telling us her issues, and Malik came to the rescue. He had dealt with a number of those issues, and so we had a lively back and forth. Janet going to charter a club at her employer and running into a number of obstacles. And I told her about the Santa Rosa Club from a couple of years ago, that if the employee gained a level, a pathways level, it was part of their employee review. And if they continued to make progress in Toastmasters, then they would be reimbursed. They had to pay, but if they were making progress, they got their dues or whatever reimbursed. It was a lively discussion, and I hope to see Janet iron all those issues out. Back to you.
Okay, so we've got a live one. Excellent. Group number 3, who is the reporter for that group?
I am, but if you don't mind, could I defer back to group number 1, because they had a lot of suggestions that we had not turned on the recorder, and I want to be able to hear what they said. So would it be okay if they repeated just a few of their highlights before I speak? Because group number 1 was not part of the recording.
Yeah, so let me just go quickly because I took notes. Group number 1 talked about linking with the library in terms of having a room, and there's computer services there that you can get a room that is just for you if you reserve it, and you can publicize for people that come into the library and are interested in doing research and that kind of thing. Organization, the universities, utilities, perhaps senior centers that often have a clubhouse, looking at realtors and that organization that they might be interested in having a Toastmasters club. Also, the idea that when you get a new member, ask them where they work and whether or not their place of employment might want a Toastmasters club or might be a good place to look into starting a Toastmasters club. And what did I leave off, Greg?
Oh, I think you covered most of it. The other idea was maybe a real estate, getting people together from real estate might be a target that's new.
Yeah.
And basically, if you go through, we tried to go through elimination, do we have this, this, and this? And we started to focus on particular things. So I think you pretty well covered that, Sally. I think you did a good job.
Okay, thank you. All right, Esther.
Okay, well, they suggested that I speak because I spoke the most in our group, because I talked about the specialty group for anyone who's interested in either starting a specialty group or starting an advanced group. And one of the things that was brought up was that there's not a lot of rules about what an advanced group means or what a specialty group means. So maybe that could actually be a good place for someone to start. Because if you have an idea, like for example, if I was going to have an advanced group, I didn't mean like a person has to go all the way through all the first levels. I was interested in working with people who've gone through like maybe their first 2 or 3 speeches, and they're very serious about Toastmasters. I had mentioned wanting to have a club of very serious people compared to a club where you have half the people coming and they're really coming for entertainment. You know, they're not volunteering and you're having to beg and plead people. And one of the things that was suggested to me, while that sounds like a good idea, make sure that when I come in, I bring in leaders. Because if you're trying to start a club, we discussed, don't have it be like one person is a king or one person is a queen. You know, you want to make sure that you're developing leadership. So whoever is starting that club, if you leave, like that club is still going to be there 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So
Right.
it's important to have the leadership underneath a really exciting theme or a really exciting desire.
Okay.
And then Meredith also was talking about the challenges of being retired and not really knowing what type of group you would like to have. And we had just begun to ask questions such as, is there a type of person that you like to hang around just naturally? And she said, well, you know, people that are approachable. And then I had asked her, what type of groups of people do you like to be with? Like, do you have a knitting group or do you have a church group? But unfortunately, we kind of ran out of time.
Okay.
So we did have a very lively discussion. I enjoyed it. And I think we all were heading in a great direction.
Awesome. So how many of you are going to pick up an idea and run with it? Do I see some hands? All right, Malik.
How about a finger? Just one finger?
Yeah.
Okay,
And was that Ronald?
I was wrong.
Okay. Anyone else? Because I will, Greg, yes.
I've been trying to run with it already, so for the last couple of months.
Okay, I will follow up with you to see if there's anything that I can do to help. Malik?
Well, you know, I am too, because that's what I was saying. So Esther definitely wants help.
Okay. Would you, who are gonna step up, could you put your email addresses in the chat and then I'll do a save on that chat so that I know how to get a hold of you? Anybody else? Meredith, maybe we should start a new club of retirees. It's a virtual club so that, because I'm sure we're all scattered to the winds of where we live these days.
Valerie, one of the things that came up,
Go ahead, George.
one of the things that came up in our group, and I'm going to blame Meredith for this, was, well, but I don't work anymore. I'm retired, or I'm this, or I'm that. What? I don't know anyone. And somehow I don't think that's true. But can we brainstorm for a second or two on what other than our company might be places to try, or things to try, or communities to try, or types of group to go with?
Well, you know, okay, so I happen to be a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And it's a small, small chapter. But if we're talking virtual, now we're talking about a community of interest of supporting veterans and supporting historical preservation and education. Now we're talking about the broader Bay Area, or we're talking about the United States, or we're talking about other countries. You know, it broadens that with one area of interest. You know, I don't really ride my horses that much, but I still think of myself as a horsewoman, and the virtual club gives me an opportunity perhaps to pull people in who are into horses and equestrian events and health issues with their older horses. So those are areas of interest. You know, knitting group sounds so cliche, but that's okay. Men and women knit, and that might be something of a group where you give speeches and you learn about all different kinds of things having to do with knitting and crocheting. So those are some interest groups. I'm on the board of directors for Hayward La Honda Music Camp, and so there's music that might be an interest of people. 4-H, I'm in 4-H, and there's another area of interest. There's so many volunteer organizations that now that we have these virtual meetings that you can pull. And once we can go back in person, you can have hybrid meetings, and you might have part of your group together here and another part together in, I don't know, Los Angeles, and still have it be hybrid so that it's one meeting, but you're still giving speeches in front of people. So there are lots of ideas and approaches to starting new clubs. Yes, Greg.
I belong to the Rodeo Association over here, and trying to get them to do that is almost impossible. They're too busy spitting tobacco. But there are a number of volunteer organizations, as you say. There's hospice that could really use it, the skills of speaking, and everybody has hospice is a different hospice for every county, but those people are always having to meet with families and speak in that type of thing. So that is maybe another one that if you could get those people, because we have 3 different hospice offices under the same curtain here than an administrative office. So I know they have to deal with people in very difficult times.
Right.
As well as trying to ask for donations. So it's just another thought there.
Thank you. Let's see, we're going over time a bit here. I saw Wing's hand and then Malik, and then it'll be up to you folks whether you want to hang out or take off. So Wing, you had a thought?
Thank you for all of your input. I was interested though, because I think we have now a partnership with Rotary International, and I was invited to speak at my Rotary, local Rotary club, because my dentist happens to be the vice president of the local Rotary club that I gave presentation on Toastmasters. So I did something with that, and I'm just curious, is there an official way of how to get into Rotary that TI has some recommendation, or we just going to be locally dealing with, say, what kind of synergy can we work on in terms of starting a club or even working with local clubs as either speaking opportunities or forming new clubs? That's what I'm curious about. Thank you.
Okay, Greg, did you have a response?
I think George has been waiting a long time. Let's let George go first and I'll follow.
Oh, okay.
Wing, every Rotary club is supposed to have a guest speaker each meeting. Now you got invited, that's really cool. A few years back before I was retired, I wanted to give a talk on a topic related to my business at the time. And I approached every Rotary club in town, 5 of them, and every single one of them booked me within 30 days to come and talk. And they make their locations available. It's just about as easy to find Rotary clubs as it is Toastmaster clubs. So if you put together a very short summary and approach those clubs, I think you will find it out. Toastmasters doesn't give you an ABC for the actual starting the club, but I do know from talking to district directors in other districts that there are Toastmasters clubs being started within Rotary clubs. It'll need to be one of the larger ones, as Bett reminded us early on, but there are larger Rotary clubs, so give it a try.
Okay. Malik, you've been patient.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say, we talked about retirees and that end of the spectrum. One of the things that I've heard, have not seen implemented, but in thinking of the youth leadership program, I heard about one person who did that, yes, to get the youth engaged, but also as a way of getting their parents involved and ultimately sort of creating a community around Toastmasters and leading to a new Toastmasters club. Some of the older students who went through the youth leadership program who turned 18 were then interested in joining Toastmasters, and some of their parents, after seeing what it did for their kids, also became interested in joining Toastmasters and being able to sort of start a club that way. It's a little bit longer term strategy, but it's another way of thinking about possibly approaching, especially if you're doing it within like a school community, so
Yeah,
that you're getting the students and the parents at the same time.
that's a good idea. And 4-H is a youth leadership communication development organization, and that's one that we might partner with various 4-H clubs in the Bay Area to do exactly that same kind of thing. All right, Greg.
Yes, I belong to the Lakeport Rotary Club also. I've been on the board. But over the number of years, I've had a number of speakers come through. And a few of them that really need Toastmasters, I invited to have them come speak at my Toastmasters Club to deliver that speech and share with our members. And then after they give their speech, I said, would you like some feedback from some of our members? And surprisingly enough, there was a positive and supportive with some good ideas. And some of those people found out that, hey, it's okay for you to join our club. And if you're going to be speaking, continue. So we've got a number of past Rotary speakers that have become club members because they saw what the Toastmasters Club did. And the way I invite them is I give them my Toastmasters card. And I said, we just like to hear you speak. And of course, the club already knows that I do this. So when they have a Rotary speaker coming in there, they're all set up with the idea, okay, let's listen to them. Let's give them some positive feedback and maybe some suggestions or questions like, when you said this or did that, I would have really liked to heard about this or had you do that. And then they start to see them. And then we say, you know, you're welcome to join. You've been our guest. We'd love to have you be part of our club if you want to. And so we've had some success doing that.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, thank you all so much. The one thing I did not do is put together an evaluation sheet for this workshop. So if you would like to give me some feedback, I would love to get it. As a matter of fact, I know some people have dropped off, but let me just do a quick share screen again. And
I do have a draft form if you want, but if you want informal, that's cool too.
well, you know, here's my email address. If any of you would like to give me some feedback, you can get in touch with me there. And I hope that you've put your email addresses, those of you that want some help following up on some of these leads, in the chat, because I will save that and follow up with you. All right, did you all get that? And I can turn this off. All right, well, you know what? Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate your support, your participation, your presence. Thank you.
And Sally, I just put an invite in the chat of our past District Governors Club. We're having two past international presidents, one speaking about corporate clubs, the other one about the #1 building tool of speechcraft. I put the ID number and passcode for February 6th. We'd love, it's a Sunday evening. We'd love to have you come and visit and listen if you wish. It's up to you.
Okay.
As the club president, I invite you to come. We'd love to see your face there, but again, it's up to you.
Okay, well, I'll take a look at my schedule. It sounds like a real opportunity.
Gotta go.
Okay, see you. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. No, we've gone over, so I appreciate all of your time.
Thank you
so much
Sally.
for allowing me to participate.
Thank you,
All
Ed.
right.
Thank you, Beth.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.